rape her mother up to 10 times a day. Katherine reports that she was also sexually abused until she was 11 years old, but she goes out of her way to claim that it was not by her father. So you can tell she's already starting off with a crazy childhood and family life. In high school, she was known as a loner and a bully. There was an incident in which she assaulted a boy with a weapon, and there was also an incident in which she was injured by a teacher, but it was kind of like her own fault. The teacher was found to be acting in self-defense against an attack that Katherine was doing. So when she wasn't acting out violently, they said that she was known to be a model student and earned awards for her good behavior. Now, I say model student with air quotations because it also states that she dropped out of school at 15 years old and she was unable to read or write. So, I don't know how someone has an inability to read or write can still be considered a model student. And maybe they meant model behaviorally, but she exhibited a lot of violent behavior, so I didn't think she would be a model student that way either. Maybe she had like a good or a bad side, and if you were on her good side, she was really sweet and nice, but once you're on her bad side, you're on her bad side. So let's continue on with the story. So when she drops out, she basically becomes a butcher at the slaughterhouse, and she claims like this was her dream job, and it sparked her collection of butcher knives. She was also known to hang her butcher knives above her bed, which I thought was creepy as fuck. Like, imagine going to sleep and you wake up, you look up, you open your eyes, and all you see are like butcher knives hanging over you. Crazy. But okay, let's continue on with the story. So, in 1973, Katherine met David Gillett at the slaughterhouse. There she worked at it. He was an alcoholic, and reports say that his alcoholism was due to seeing a school bus of, like, due to seeing a train hit a school bus full of children in 1968. Yeah, that's pretty traumatic. From that incident, I believe they said that 6 kids died, and he saw it all happen, and that kind of sparked his alcoholism. But yeah, Kate met David, and they pretty much hit it off. They met in 1973, and by 1974, they were married at Kate's request. It was kind of like a surprise wedding. Like, Kate picked him up and was like, we're on our way to our wedding day, are you ready? And he was just like, cool, yeah, we get married, alright. So yeah, but people do say that Dave was shit-faced at the wedding. Like, he was very drunk, people said. And another weird thing was that on their wedding night, Katherine tried to strangle Dave because they only had sex 3 times that night. And okay, I saw some reports that said she tried to strangle him because her mother enough for her. I don't know, y'all. Crazy story. But she strangled him on their wedding night because he only had sex with her 3 times that night. Crazy. So yeah, it was pretty much a toxic marriage, as would be assumed. There is a stated incident in which Katherine burned all of Dave's clothes and backhanded him with a frying pan. So like basically hit him across the head with a frying pan. And she was pregnant at the time just because he came home late from a darts competition. But the reason he came home late from the darts competition was because he had made it into the finals. But she didn't care. So pretty much David fled. He got out of there. He was not trying to mess with Katherine because he was just like, this lady is way too crazy for me. There were more incidents down the line where Katherine found out who David's new girlfriend was, and she slashed her face. And this is what sent her to the psychiatric ward. But she was only there for, I think, about a month before she checked herself out. She had more toxic relationships. She dated another man named David Sonder, and she stabbed him with scissors. But in 1995, she meets a man named John Price. And pretty much as soon as she meets him, she moves into his house. A few years down the road, in 1998, tensions arise because John did not want to marry her, and she clearly wanted to be married. Because she's like spiteful that he does not want to marry her, she sets out to get him fired by telling his boss that he was stealing first aid kits from his job. And she takes like pictures of the first aid kit. Well, I don't know if she takes pictures. I think so. She proves with some sort of evidence that John had first aid kits in his possession that were from his job. In reality, these were first aid kits that were like expired or thrown out that John had dug out of the garbage and took home with him. He had not actually stolen first aid kits that were used at his job. But and he worked at his job for 17 years. It was kind of like one of those things where his boss did not want to fire him. Everyone at his job said that he was such a great worker, but it was like a technicality that technically those were things that were supposed to be thrown out, even though they weren't being used. So it was considered stealing, and because it was so blatantly and clearly brought to his boss's attention, he had no other choice but to follow the company policy and terminate John. So he lost his job, and he also lost his pension that he had saved up for 17 years from his job. So after that, he kicked her out. But after a few months later, they ended up getting back together for whatever reason. So now it's about February of the year 2000. And series of assaults. Katherine stabs John in the chest, and he gets a restraining order against her. He also goes around and tells people, like, if he doesn't come to work one morning or something like that, it is because Katherine killed him. Like, he was at a point in his life where he feared for his life. He believed that she would kill him. So, one morning, his neighbors are concerned because John had not left out for work yet. So they basically called the police to do a wellness check. And during the wellness check, there's no response from inside of his house. So the police break down the door. They find Katherine comatose from taking a ton of pills. And the next part is pretty gruesome. John had been decapitated, skinned, and butchered as if he were a cow in the slaughterhouse. They said that his decapitated head was simply like on a plate in the refrigerator, as if it were some sort of meat. What makes this even more gross is that Katherine cooked a meal with parts of his body. It seemed like she tried to make some type of like roast beef stew or something like that out of John's body parts. She set up the table and plates and everything, and apparently she planned to serve this meal to his kids. She literally planned to feed this man to his children. Crazy. So yeah, even though Katherine was comatose from the drugs, they did not kill her. She just like had an overdose or whatever, but it was not deadly. And they sentenced her to life without parole. And she is the first Australian woman to ever receive that sentencing. As of right now, she is 65 years old, and she is serving time at Silverwater Women's Correctional Centre in South Wales, Australia. So yeah, you guys, tell me what you think about that story down in the comments below. Personally, I think it's crazy as fuck. Like, what? Like, some people out here are really just crazy. Like, you don't know who you could be running into. Like, obviously, Katherine had all these problems and all this drama from her past, but these men that met her likely didn't know much about that drama or how it affected her and how it made her such a violent and evil person. So you gotta be careful with who you're dealing with out there, because you never really know who someone is. what you think about it. Have you heard this story before? Did you have anything else interesting to add to